to the newly elected Board of Education member, Tina Reed. Please stand and repeat after me. You have to do your oath for your newly elected board member. Press your mic.
Do I have to stand? I do? Okay. I, Tina Reed, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties as a Board of Education member to the best of my ability in the North Rose-Wolcott Central School District.
Thank you. At this time, I will administer the oath of office to the superintendent.
I, Michael Pullen, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as superintendent to the best of my abilities in the North Rose-Wolcott Central School District.
Thank you. At this time, I will call for nominations for the position of the Board of Education President. Do I have a nomination? Linda? Do I have a second for Lucinda? John? Are there any other nominations for Board of Education President? Hearing none, all in favor of Lucinda being the Board of Education President for the 25-26 school year? Thank you. Congratulations, Cinda. I will give you your oath.
I, Lucinda Collier, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as a Board of Education President, Vice President, to the best of my ability in the North Rose-Wolcott Central School District.
Thank you. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to the President to continue with the nominations for Vice President.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone, for your confidence and for putting up with me for another year. The nominations are now open for Vice President of the Board of Education. Travis?
I nominate Tina Reed for the position of Vice President.
Is there a second? Linda? Any other nominations? In that case, all in favor of Tina Reed for Vice President of your board? Motion is carried. Welcome, Tina. And you have another oath to take.
Okay. I, Tina Reed, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as Board of Education Vice President to the best of my ability in the North Rose-Wolcott Central School District.
You have to sign it.
Sign it.
Up there, too.
I have to do mine too, so
Hmm?
you have to do mine as well.
Oh. Right. Do we need to appoint you?
I'm appointed in, well, I guess after my appointment, he will, after a,
All right,
so that I do it
then, okay. Where's that?
I'm here.
Down here,
So
okay.
after I'm due there.
All right, okay, good. All right. We now move on to board appointments and other designations. For those of you watching, this is the first meeting of the North Rose-Wolcott Board of Education this year for the new year, 2025-26. The school year runs from July 1st of a year through the following year in June 30th. So this is the first meeting, and it is also the organizational meeting, which is required by law. So all of these appointments are official that we appoint. So we start with number 5. Do we do, let's see. Yeah, okay. 5A, to appoint the following annually. A motion, please. John and Tina, any discussion? All in favor of appointing these? In favor? Motion is carried. Before we move on, you will notice that on number A, the district clerk was first, and she too has an oath that she must take. So Tina, would you repeat the oath for the district clerk?
I, Tina St. John, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties as a district clerk to the best of my ability in the North Rose-Wolcott Central School District.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tina. We turn to page 2B. A motion, please, to appoint the following people to these positions in B, 5B. Motion, Leslie, and second, Linda. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. 5C. A motion, please, to appoint the following people to these positions. Tina and John. Discussion? All in favor of approving those listed in 5C. Motion is carried. Page 3. A motion, please, to approve the people for the following designations in 5D. Motion? Travis and Leslie? Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Page 4. Number 6. Authorizations. Motion, please, to approve the following people for these authorizations. Motion, Tina? Leslie, second. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Number 7. A motion, please, to approve the following amounts for the following employees. for the official undertakings, our bonds. Motion, John, and a second, Travis. Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Number 8, the school lunch. A motion, please, to approve the school lunch meal pricing. Linda and Leslie? Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Number 9, a motion, please, to approve the mileage reimbursement rate. Motion, John. Second, Travis. Discussion? All in favor? All are in favor, thank you. Motion is carried. Number 10, a motion, please, to approve the substitute compensation. Leslie, John, discussion? All in favor of approving substitute compensation? Motion is carried. That completes the position and the approvals that we needed to do. We are now on page 6, and it's time for our presentation, number 11. So, Mr. Pullen, I'll let you make that.
Sure, thank you, Mrs. Collier. So Megan's going to go through the presentation of the data. You know, at the end of the year, we were able to go through, fall and spring updates from each of the respective buildings. Then when we got to June and the elementary presented their data, we want to add to the year-end results because now we have some regents information, some graduation information, and we want to consolidate it so that you get a chance to look at the overarching view from what we started with last fall to where we are at the end of the school year. So I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and I'll jump in with her as needed, or if there are questions, please don't hesitate to ask as we go through the presentation.
All right. So this is our first meeting that we officially get to show our new mission and vision to start off the school year. So our vision is North Rose-Wolcott is a community where all learners are engaged in experiences that grow their individual potential. Our mission is we will create a community of belonging and a mindset of continuous learning by building collaborative relationships. That came out of our strategic action plan work, and we're already seeing that a lot of the things we're talking about are aligning to both the mission and the vision heading into the future. So we're going to start with the elementary school. We will be looking throughout the elementary, middle, and high at multiple measures of data, and we'll be going through each one as we go through each building as it correlates to their data. So we'll start with our littlest ones, our UPK. These are our 4-year-olds, and you can see their growth from fall to spring. They're naming the alphabet, reading uppercase, lowercase when they start out, and it increased, their growth increased quite a bit by spring. For math also, they have to identify numbers 1 through 10 and then be able to count to 20. And so that's how our 4-year-olds ended the year. And so Karen had shown you this. I wanted to make sure that we still included it so you could have a full picture of everything that went on. This was our first time giving the iReady at the end of the year just to see where kindergarten and first grade would fall. And so you can see that, taking this test on the computer, the information we were able to get from that was that 79% of our kindergartners and 48% of our first graders were reading on or above grade level at that time. And then this is, again, for math, looking at iReady. It showed our 69% of our kindergartners and 47% of our first graders were reading or performing on or above grade level for math facts and skills. Here's our 2nd through 4th grade data for iReady. So as you go across, you can see the growth for each grade. They each made some good improvements, but of course we would always like to see those higher at the end. Third made quite a bit of improvement, as did fourth, and second really as well, with them starting at such a low number in the fall. So again, continuing to see what we can do to even boost that even more. So here's all the grades kindergarten through fourth at the elementary school to show you the percentage of students who are reading on or above grade level in the fall compared to the spring. As you can see, we make big growths at the early intervention type stages, not as much growth towards the end of the elementary school years, but still there's growth for each grade level there. And again, we're looking to see that rise even more.
Megan, are there reasons for the lack of growth?
I don't,
Particularly
the third and fourth grade level. I don't have specific reasons. I know that third grade cohort and the fourth grade cohort are ones that we're looking at, knowing that they were also impacted by COVID and our younger students were not. So that might be a piece that we're still trying to see them come out of that.
Well, I think the other piece to consider is, as she said, this is all independent on the computer, right? So this is different than if they were being assessed with a teacher sitting there doing a running reading record, listening to their comprehension and their fluency. And that's the part where, again, we struggle with the fact that we're trying to give you concrete, nationally normed data, but it definitely is something where progress is being made. But again, it's a computer-based assessment, and that's one of the things where with our particular program last year, the keyboarding, and I think you're going to start to see the more proficient they become on these types of assessment, they're going to continue to make those gains.
So, Megan, it would make no sense then to pull scores from when these kids were in kindergarten and start comparing them year to year.
There aren't
because-
any. And
Right.
on iReady, there aren't any.
That's right,
Because
so we
this is the
just started
first
doing
year
that.
of using the program.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But it wouldn't be fair anyways, because you're not measuring the same
Right.
skill set at
Right.
that point. Okay.
Well, I was aware when the fourth graders came to the museum this year, there were only 3 classes instead of 4.
Yes.
And I wonder as a former teacher, if a larger class has some impact on how they're doing.
It was
Class
actually a
size.
small cohort, so there was about the same number of students in the 3 classes that the other grades have in 4 classes. So it's a smaller group of students overall in that grade level. And so you'll see when they move to 5th next year, that's where we'll be able to see some reduction in the sections we had there, because we're just staffing based on the size of the cohort of students.
Well, I think the other piece to think about is when we talk about the curriculum mapping and the process, you're going to see later on when she goes through the data, you clearly will identify that there's a pattern and a trend where we wonder about our math curriculum, right? So the math committee, you heard Nicole talk about it, you heard Karen talk about it. Crystal was able to show some particular growth, and Megan will talk about the use of data mate specifically at the secondary level because that mimics the state assessments. But now we're in that phase where, again, rigor in the classroom. Are we assessing with the right amount of rigor on the regular test, Monday through Friday, to align with the state standard? And then also, are we able to address the deficiencies in the curriculum as well as the instructor in front of the classroom? Because I think that that's also something that you're going to see. And, I believe you'll ask the same question that we asked, like, why is the result that? And then who was the person teaching it? And what's our plan to remediate it?
Megan, what are our average class sizes?
They're right around 20.
20.
Yeah.
So decent size.
Yeah.
I wonder too, with say 3rd and 4th, in those grades, they're starting to read now for content. emphasis is on social studies and science, those areas, rather than reading as reading.
Right, they're reading to learn instead of learning to read in those grades.
Yeah, so possibly that's what we're seeing too.
Yeah, and there is going to be an adjustment made at third and fourth grade at really re-looking at the making meaning portion of collaborative classroom, because there's been some changes to that's come out through the publisher. And so there's being worked on this summer to really make sure that the lessons we're using through that are aligning to what we're seeing the students' needs being.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So here's second through fourth grade math, again on iReady. And again, you can see growth, but not as many students as we would want it to be as far as on grade level.
Now, Megan, question, maybe Mr. Pullen, you sort of alluded to this. Are we changing our math curriculum? Are we in the process? I feel like I remember hearing we're in the
Yeah.
process of adjusting.
So
that,
yes,
correct?
they are making adjustments to the curriculum.
Okay.
There is a committee together, so they've been supplementing throughout the last school year. They've been supplementing the materials, so they're going to reconvene this year. And then this year, the intent and the charge. And again, I'm not trying to steal your thunder for the presentation, but the charge will be twofold. Number one, they're going to look at how we're grading and whether, there's grading with equity in there. And then number two, we're going to look at our material and see if it's outdated, because we put a ton of money into literacy and reading resources. And now over the last 2 years, we've been saying, look, I think it's time to really assess and bring in a few different vendors to see are there materials that are better aligned to the standards. So they're supplementing this year, and then they'll actually put a formal proposal together throughout the course of this school year. And that'll be something that, again, has to be vertical, because I think as you look at the high school data, you're going to see from past discrepancies and past gaps in academics, those children get promoted on, and if they didn't have curriculum maps, which are, again, fairly new in the grand scheme of things, you promote a gap throughout their academic career.
Yeah, that's what it kind of seems like. These sorts of deficiencies are hard to make up for if you don't
Right.
attack them sooner than later.
Correct.
That's hard.
And that's why I think when you start to look at second and third grade, that's the first real curriculum map that we've had, and we put it in one place on Atlas, and then we've started to tweak that after we put it in place. So now it's going back and saying, okay, we've got the maps, we've got the assessments, now we have to look at the materials and how we're delivering it.
And through the work of our math committee at the elementary school, like Mike said, there's different vendors that we're looking at as far as programs. We also have sent teachers out to different school districts that are using those programs, and they were able to see them, in action being taught, but then also sat down afterwards with teachers to kind of get their impression of how it's really working. So we're taking all of that into account as we look at what would be the best fit to meet the standards and the learning needs of our students.
I found when I was teaching fourth grade, I thought math was extremely difficult to teach because there was so much, and it was a lot of different things that you were dealing with, not just adding and subtracting and multiplying and dividing. And for the child who didn't get this particular area, you have to move on. You can't just say, well, too bad, and hold and tell everybody gets it. But then if you move on, that you leave this kid in the dust, say with measurement, and it's very, it's discouraging, but it's alarming for the kids who are having some difficulty.
Yeah, the other part I think to that point is that, getting students to see cross-curricular connections is really important, because if you think about education in the last 10 to 15 years, you've gone through the push for Common Core. You had standards-based assessments, you had the Common Core, now you're going away from it. And teachers really are just starting to get their feet underneath them, and then there's been a new initiative that's been put out there. And I really would say we're not proponents of teaching to the test. Like, we understand that they need to understand the curriculum, and we'll take the time to slow down and invest in that versus testing once or twice throughout the year. So the iReady is really proven to be a beneficial tool, just like DataMate in the middle and high school is proven to be a beneficial tool, but it's just one measure. And I think that the continuing piece, which is our teachers being valued for their input and the teachers weighing in on what they would like to see different from our curriculum, has been really extremely beneficial. And I wish there were a few of them here to talk about that, but I think you'll hear from them in the fall when we share materials with you.
I'm wondering if there isn't, we're looking at the success that we're having in the high school with kids who are having difficulty in a special area of a curriculum, and they go into the
Ops.
Cougar Ops and get that extra help that seems to work. Would it work in the elementary, and could we provide that extra, and when? And I know it's very difficult, but with math, everything builds on what you've learned in the past, and if you've missed it down here, you're not going to succeed as you go along.
Yeah, and I think last year was the first time that the elementary school had iReady as a measurement, but also iReady as an intervention, so that students, if there's areas that they struggled in, iReady gives them a path right at their level, and then a little bit harder. If they can do it, it keeps on moving up or goes back, if they struggle with it. So that's kind of like another layer of that support before they go to see an interventionist who would really be working, with those very small groups.
Yeah, I'm looking for a picker-upper.
I know.
Somebody who will pull that kid out and say, you're having trouble with this particular concept. Let me teach it a different way to you.
Yeah.
And I know that becomes expensive, but it's expensive not to have kids where they're supposed to be too. So
yeah, we do have Christine Chapman at the elementary school as our math interventionist. I think with these types of numbers, though, it's hard to get to all the students that have that level of need, so it ends up being prioritized.
yeah.
Did you have a question?
Megan, is the iReady math also computer-based?
Yes.
They don't take work? In other words, they don't show work and get credit?
They don't on that. And just like with the in DataMate, we've been putting the information into there so they can practice. That's the one that actually lets them show and practice how to show their math work on the screen, because that duplicates the state test more.
Okay. And the other question is that what does a teacher get back from iReady ELA or iReady Math? Do they get an individualized assessment of where the strong points are and where the weak points are?
They do. So they get, first of all, they get a notification if the students seem to rush through it and not do their best. They can get a flag. But then they also get information on the strong skills and the skills they're struggling in. Students have their whole class, or teachers have their whole class in there. So iReady will actually even group the students by like need, so they could pull those students for, a small group intervention. And then there is lessons in there actually as well that you can pull from that will target exactly what students are lacking. So there's a lot of resources in it, but again, it's our first year, so they're just really getting into all that. So the more they learn, I think the more beneficial it's going to be for them to pull all of that together.
Thank you. That's very usable.
Yeah.
Megan, I was going to ask you about how you could do the smaller groups, like what I need, the when.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's already in place.
Yeah, and at the elementary school, it's more within the homeroom classroom, unless it's such a severe degree that they need the the coach, the instructional coach, to work with them, or the math interventionist. At the middle school, they're using that data to actually make the what I need groups and try to put like needs together, and then they shift them every so often based on how they come out on the benchmarks.
Just two other points to make to clarify as well. So there's the curriculum work that the math committee's taking on, then the department meetings, right? So every grade level meets on this as well. So you also have to keep in mind that there's the MTSS meetings that take place for the specific students who those flags show up for, so that the teachers are talking about it with a group and a team to really assess whether they need it. And then I would say that the SLT, the school leadership team, is the other branch. So it's really like a three-pronged approach. The school leadership team starting to attack some of this data on a monthly basis to really target what's going on. And then, you know, throughout the administrators' presentations, pre-K through 12, being in the classroom, being more aware of what's happening from an instruction standpoint, what the teachers are doing, they are getting better data for all three entities, you know, to use and to really make those changes between the math committee, the SLT, and the MTSS committee. So it really is, again, churning. And then to Cinda's point earlier, if you liken our process to a vice where you're cranking up pressure and you're starting to squeeze in from both sides, we do have the early intervention, and we do have the Cougar Ops program where you're really starting to specialize. You're going to start seeing us be able to squeeze and really pinpoint where those deficiencies lie. And again, if you create a gap in pre-K or kindergarten and you don't address it, to your point earlier, it's going to perpetuate itself and show up differently, because every year kids commingle with a different cohort, you know, and we don't just track them. That's the other benefit of this program, is we're not tracking kids and saying, you can't do this, so this is your red group, this is your blue group, and this is your black group. This is, here you go. And all these different groups are commingled together every year.
And I can speak to that too with my kids in the middle school. You know, their what I need classes changed
Yep.
as their abilities changed.
Yep.
And so I do appreciate that that is mixing things up a little bit and putting them, you know, the different group of kids, or taking them out when that was no longer a necessary intervention.
Yep.
So it is working.
Yep.
It is doing something.
I think another thing that we really focused on this year, especially this past year, was vertical alignment. We had built-in vertical meetings between our teachers district-wide, set up regularly so that they would be looking at, okay, what comes before me, what's coming after me, to really try to make sure those gaps aren't there and that we're really aligned with, as students move through, they're getting what they need. Teachers loved that. They asked for more of that, so we're going to be building that again this year and making sure that our PD days have those as well. Okay, on to middle school. So again, we have iReady data. This is 5th through 8th. The top is ELA and the bottom is math. And going across, you'll see fall, winter, and then to spring as far as the growth. And so paired at the middle school with the iReady data, which really looks at the skills, we also look at the classes to see how students are performing within their classrooms, their assignments, their homework. So looking at this grade 7 for science and social studies, you can see science passing rate across the top, which is quite high throughout the year. And then social studies, you can see across there that that was also pretty good. But we wanted to also compare it to how students are doing on the midterms, how students are doing on the finals for those classes. We know some kids have difficulty taking tests, but can show us in class that they're able to do the work. So what we're really going to be looking at here, especially for 8th grade and science, is are the grades and the midterms and the finals aligning to what the state tests are showing us or not? and seeing how those connect and what adjustments we need to make sure we're grading equitably, and really looking, are we measuring on our midterms and finals what have been taught during those parts of the year?
Megan, can you define passing?
Yeah, 65 plus.
Okay.
When I compare them with the ELAs, there's a huge difference. I realize a lot more goes into the total grade. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm also, thank you. I'm also wondering if you can't read and write very well, how you manage to pass these science and social, particularly social studies, which is generally a more of a writing kind of exercise.
So, you know, that goes back to our question on rigor and the grading for equity, right? To make sure that, you know, again, teachers aren't just arbitrarily or subjectively putting grades against a student's performance. So one of the things that I think you'll note throughout the course of our work this summer, when we get together with Nicole, and I know Megan, again, not to steal your thunder, because you'll bring some of that up when we talk about our school improvement plans and then the key performance indicators. One of the things that our administrators are doing a better job with now is the 5 weeks where they start to look at data and they're having data conversations. So the data-driven conversations or the data-informed conversations are really leading to better dialogue between the building principals and the respective teachers, because they're able to assess who's not performing on the 5-week data by student, by subject, by teacher, and then really start to tailor their conversations on that. And I think that that's also paying some dividends, because we're actually going in and seeing our quarterly data is improving. But again, we still wonder, why is there a discrepancy between the state standard and our standard? Our standard should be higher than what the state standard is, because we should know our kids locally and really drive them to outperform what the state is. And then to John's point about proficiency, proficiency is only good enough. It's not showing us what we want or what we expect.
But we're not even at proficiency level.
In some areas, you're correct.
For grade 8 science and social study, again, you can see the quarterly grades and then the midterm and the final. One thing to note for the final for science and the final for also math was that our 8th grade students who take algebra or take living environment, they do not take the final as far as the classroom final, because they're taking the regions for that class. So they aren't included in that one.
Megan, those finals are teacher designed, right?
They are, yep. So they should be very aligned to exactly what students have been learning in class and aligned to those standards. So like Mike said, again, looking at the rigor and figuring out where the disconnect is.
And being more effective with using Datamate,
Yeah.
right? Because we want the organic growth. We don't want it just to be standardized tests. Because then again, that's the one piece that we noted with a couple of conversations with building principals at middle school and high school. It's like you're using it now, but we want to see, is it organic, and are you making the necessary changes? And when we say are you, it's really a team effort. It's the administrators, it's the teachers, it's the students. So it's all entities of our organization, really.
Was last year the first year, or this past year, the first year they really all used Datamate, so it's new for teachers as well?
On more of a
Yes.
widespread basis, yeah, 'cause there were a few people that
Locally,
piloted it.
maybe some used
Yeah.
it, but not everybody.
Correct.
Yeah, we really started more intense training last summer and have been going throughout the year. So looking at our students who are recognized academically, grade 7 and 8, you can see here honor roll, high honor roll, and principals honor roll for each quarter by grade level. Anything more about the middle school before we move on to high school? Okay. So here we have by grade level and class the passing rates quarterly. So what we looked at was the 9th grade classes that like a typical person who's on 9th grade would be taking, not like if there's some 9th graders that take like a different class outside of that grade level, or like a 10th grader who might be taking a 9th grade class. So we tried to make it like consistent like that. And then again, you can see the midterm data and how that aligns to the quarterly data. And unfortunately, that math final wasn't too far off.
Again, are upper kids not taking these tests?
These are all the students are taking these tests.
All of them?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I basically have that for each grade level. I know it's a lot of numbers, but you can look through those as far as quarterly percentage passing and midterm and finals.
So, Cinda, algebra, to your point, algebra, that 22%, that is where I referenced earlier saying it's not enough for us just to look at the curriculum, it's also to look at the delivery.
Yeah.
And then having some vertical conversations that Megan talked about to really say, okay, what is it? Why is one population that's covering algebra, for example, 8th grade, doing well? And why are we struggling with it 9th grade?
Yeah.
And really trying to pinpoint how to fill those gaps in to make sure that there's a little bit more of a balance, because we can't keep taking the same students out of the candidate pool and then watching the rest of them flounder, because I think that we all know if you set your expectation low and you hit it every time, that's not good. But if you teach to the middle, that's also not good. You got to teach to that highest standard,
Teach
and
to
then
the student.
correct, and then really address and differentiate to meet their needs. So that really is something that we're keenly aware of.
By 12th grade, they seem to be getting a little bit more aligned with the finals and the quarterly grades. And then again, we have our academic accomplishments as far as honor roll, high honor roll, and principals honor roll quarterly. So looking at our Regents results, this is a chart that has a lot of information on it, so I'll just kind of go through the columns. So we do have students that take some of the Regents in January, so that's the first couple of columns there. You can see the passing rate for students who took it in January. The mastery rate is 85 or above, if students scored that, and then the number of students tested. So you'll see, like for English language arts, there's 83. We encourage all of our students to take that in January to try to pass it and get it out of the way. So you can see 61% of 83 students did pass that ELA in January. The algebra students that took it in January were ones that were retaking it that did not pass it last year. So we got about 26% of the 49 students able to pass in the January. And then moving on to June, there's the mastery rate and then the passing rate. and then again, the number of students. So we have some areas that we really want to celebrate and other areas that we're still very concerned about. As we were talking about, algebra, 34.82%. That's just not acceptable, especially after we have been really looking at math for the last year. So we have some additional work to do in that area with the department and with specific teachers. And then Algebra 2 is really an area of celebration. And yesterday I had ASIs asking me how we got our earth science so high, because we did really great in that. So it's exciting. So we have a wide range of scores as far as passing rate, and looking at even the highest ones, we want to improve even those, but really focusing in on algebra, and then the living environment one we'd want to improve too. One thing to note is that every 8th grader who took the algebra or living environment regents passed. So of course we're looking at those 8th graders who are accelerated or who we feel it can challenge it. So it's, not the whole population, but every single one of those students passed that took it in 8th grade. And that's added into this, so that does show that. So this is rankings. This is not official. This is information that the other assistant superintendents shared as far as what scores, region scores their districts got. And so I looked to kind of see where we fall within the districts within Wayne County that reported. Not all of them did, but we do have 8. So again, algebra, we know that's a difficult spot for us, and unfortunately we are in last place for that out of the 8. One thing to note is a lot of those algebra students were taking it for a second time or a third time, and 53% of them improved their scores. So they are making gains, but they're still not passing. And then, again, earth science is exciting. We're in first place, middle of the road for some of the other ones. Living in an environment, like I said, we'd like to see that increase for our high school students. And then chemistry was a tricky one that students really struggled with that, and we're looking more deeply into that as well.
This is, the sciences though is the next gen assessments as well, correct?
So we used the old one this year. We're starting the new one next year. So we have some prep we need to do to see how that's changing and how our teaching needs to change. A lot of students who took that this year also struggled with that.
Can you explain what you just said?
Yes.
I must have lost it somehow.
So the standards for science have changed, and this was the first year you could give the new Regents test based on that, but they give you kind of a year grace period. So we decided to have our students take the old test so we could have a year of seeing what the new test looked like before we really adjusted things to get them prepared. They'll take it next summer or next June. So we're going to be meeting with the science teachers and saying, okay, they've been going to trainings about how the standards have changed. It really aligns a lot to what they're doing in 5th and 8th grade with the science investigations, which are kind of like mini labs within middle school. And there are certain labs, investigations that have to be passed before a student can even take a Regents in high school for science. So it's really a big change, and we've been working through that. So our graduation rate is 88%. That's for our high school here. When we look at the district graduation rate, that includes our students who attend other programs, and that's 86.25%. And like you said, Cinda, a lot of that is for students who have struggled, who have not passed. They've been able to make up those credits through the Cougar Apps program. It's been a huge help, and that's also a big piece of doing Regents review and making sure those students are ready to take those Regents if they're retaking it multiple times. So I only have a couple action steps here. We actually have a lot, and there'll be more of those coming out as we work on our plans this summer. But we are going to continue our math committees. We actually have a BOCES consultant that came out a few times this year. She's going to be coming out more regularly to work with our math committees and really diving into the math practices to figure out what we need to do to improve our teaching to make sure our students are where they need to be. We also, in addition to the programs we're looking at the elementary school, there are some districts that do use some programs for their algebra classes because right now we have teachers who are newer, and a lot of times high school teachers, it's really their own program curriculum they've created. We would like to have a base resource for our teachers to use, so we're looking into those as well. We do have some individual teachers that we have seen struggle. This is not just based on Regent scores. This could be multiple different areas we've seen them struggle in. So for those teachers, they already know that they'll be working to start the year with action plans where they have specific goals and frequent supportive meetings to try to get them to improve in the areas they're struggling. And then we're going to be implementing a new screener for social, emotional, and behavioral needs. And this is something that actually John Bittner and Sarah Cassini, they are working this summer to really learn the program. They're going to be teaching it to our mental health staff. This is going to be something that we're going to be able to give all students and get an idea of how they're doing as far as indicators for depression, avoidance behavior, different things that might show us that they need some extra support, and being able to provide interventions targeted to those areas of concern.
What's that stand for, Megan? I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that.
I was just curious.
It actually was created by Dr. McDougall that works right in Oswego. I don't know if you've heard of him, but yeah, we've Zoomed with him a couple of times. So you'll see here some of the professional development we're going to be working on. A lot of these things will be familiar because we're really still trying to take what we started and dive in deeper instead of adding new things. So like I said, we're going to be looking at the math standards and practices. Like I was saying with John, we're really going to be looking at those science investigations and the lessons because it's a big change. We're going to be unpacking the portrait of a graduate. So we have that as part of our strategic action plan, but we are still waiting from the state. They haven't released some of the information we would like before we dive too deeply into it. We're going to continue our grading for equity, looking at standards-based grading and different practices where we can make things more equitable for students. We're going to continue with the DataMate and iReady. Last year, we did some trial work with My Homework app, which is an app where it's like an online agenda where parents can go in and see what homework students have. Teachers can put it in there. And so we want to use that more widespread and really train teachers in that. Again, I had told you the teachers are very interested in continuing the vertical alignment. We want to go back to function-based thinking. This is something we had training in the past on, but we really want to come back to it because it gets you back to the root of why students are behaving the way they are. Like, what need are they trying to meet? And so we want to get some of that training back in here. At one point, we had all been trained, but people turn over and we think it's time to revisit that again. We've been working with Jeanette Adam Price. So she worked with our administrative team, and she works with our local history. And it is a group that really is looking at equity, decreasing hate in the world. And so she worked with the administrators on how to respond when you hear students speaking to each other in ways that might be derogatory, using words we wouldn't want them to. And she actually gives us a specific kind of protocol of how to interrupt it, what to say, how to respond. And so it's really something, we have little actual pieces of paper you can pull out to guide you. Because it's very hard, I think, sometimes for teachers to know how to interrupt that. So we'll all have a consistent way to do that.
Well, I think the other piece there is that we're also looking to model that so that our adults, with respect to how they talk to our students and whether they're handling the situation appropriately, is also, being addressed, because we know that there's a level of sarcasm that students aren't equipped to handle at certain ages, and that sarcasm's not everyone's cup of tea. So that interrupting the harmful comments is meant to be used from adult interactions to students as well, and hopefully adult to adult. So I think that that's the other piece that I think from our training in March and then our follow-up from Tuesday, that we're starting to really see our administrators are understanding the way to use that as well.
Will that be for all adults?
Yeah.
Good.
Yep, so we actually have some teachers coming in to receive it tomorrow. And then new teacher orientation, it's going to be a part of that. And then our opening days, we're going to have people cycle through and receive that training. So everybody from bus drivers, food service, teachers, everybody will have that kind of baseline tool to use when they hear those things.
That can be beneficial for coaches.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I can let Mark Blankenberg know when the sessions are, so we can let the coaches know if they want to come in.
We hear an awful lot on it.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. And then again, training for the BIMAs too, so that, we're able to provide that to students and use that for good information on providing interventions for the behavioral, emotional, and social side of things.
And BIMA stands for Behavior Intervention Monitoring Assessment System.
There you go.
Behavior intervention.
Thank you.
Monitoring Assessment System.
So that concludes our data. Obviously, there's some things we want to celebrate. There's things we still need to work on. Not discounting that at all. But then also knowing that what we talk about as far as, educating the whole child when you see they're struggling with certain skills, or they're doing this well in classes. You'll also look at the graduation rate, and there's points of pride in there to really celebrate and share. And it's exciting to have other assistant superintendents asking me, hey, how are you getting these scores for some of our areas? So we want to continue to grow that. Any other questions? Yeah.
It's not really a question, but I appreciate the data that you've given us, because it's good and some of it's not so good. Some of it's really questionable. The data's not questionable, but the results would be.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm thinking, that this is a wealth of information for discussion throughout the school year.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely looking back on, what was done, and then making sure that we're in the moment checking those benchmarks to see, are they where they need to be, and if not, trying to scoop them back up as quick as possible.
I appreciate the acknowledging where we're missing and where we're succeeding. So we should make sure we check both. Don't focus on all the bad, but don't focus
Yeah.
on just the few that are handful. So I appreciate showing us both sides. Thank you.
I think we're in a position now also where teachers are recognizing and appreciating the ability to visit other rooms, in other districts. So really starting to foster that open door policy, and when they recognize that there might be someone down the hall that really has strong connections with kids and therefore gets very good results because of it, going down the hall and picking up a trick from their colleague, I think is really good, and it's a trusting environment as well. So culturally, people are realizing, like, you don't have to be the top performer as an instructor, and worry all the time that there's going to be some sort of land shark that's going to come out and grab you and take you away. Like, we're working with all learners, right? Teachers and students, and making those gains and committing to people and saying, here's our standard. We want you to hit it, but we also understand that we play a part in the teacher's growth as well.
Well, it's also going to be only our third year we've had the same administrative team, and that makes a huge difference. It's a 5-year process to see change, and we're only going on year 3 with the same administrators, and your position as well. Makes a difference.
Yeah.
I have a quick question. I remember that it used to be that for someone that's younger or new, there was a mentor for them. Is that still in place?
Yes.
There is,
Okay.
yep.
That would be helpful. I
And
would
the new
think,
teacher orientation, you know, a lot of what we focus on, which is unique to our district, is really making sure our first year teachers start the year with at least 40 hours worth of curriculum work underneath their belt before they even hit the classroom. So we really, as part of our onboarding process, and again, it's unique to us, but it's something we've committed to since we received the ERA funds in the American Recovery Act and the ARP funds. We've committed to say to people, you know, we want you to know your curriculum, and we want you to plan for those first several weeks before you even walk in the door for new teacher orientation. You know, so Megan's department really oversees that. And then when we do new teacher orientation, they do spend time with their mentor and they get to know them. And then there's periodic check-ins throughout the course of the year. Yep.
As I was looking at the achievement levels, as it got into the middle school and then into the high school, I look at some of those scores and the data of achievement, and I think back to the years before this, and they were low achieving back then and back then and back then. And it says to me that if you are achieving at a low level to begin with, you're never, at least in this group, they never made that up with everything that we've done. So to me, the key is, being an old elementary teacher, don't let them get behind in the first place. So, you know, have we put enough money into making sure these kids don't fall behind in the first place? Are we? You know, we're at the high school level. What if we had that at the elementary and at the middle school, so that we weren't letting kids fall behind, because they're not making it up.
Well, I think there's, again, to be the balance here and make sure that we're considering all of our things. When we go and look at our graduation, it's 88% in district, 86.25 district-wide. That doesn't account for the kids who dropped out and re-enrolled and graduated since, right? Like I sent you an update, we had a completer last week. The graduation rate for that child doesn't go into the data for the state. When we look at our student success rate at Wayne Tech and Career Center, and the number of kids who are going through and receiving National Technical Honor Society endorsements, those things are not factored in here either. To the point about, are we spending enough money? I think we're spending an appropriate amount of money, and right now we're assessing our real deficiencies as to our supplies, so our curriculum, and our delivery. And I think about the amount of work that we've put into some of our grant-funded positions, like our single point of access people, to make sure with our social emotional needs and the things that we're trying to address outside of the 7:30 to 3 o'clock time frame, so that children understand that they're loved 24 hours a day, and that when we're with us, we control those measures during that time, because we know from 3:31 till the next day there's variables that occur for all of us that we can't account for. I think we're making gains. I mean, if you were to go back to the beginning slide and you looked at the elementary progress across the board, there's 25% growth from fall to spring in each of those areas. I think if you sit down, like when we did our visit, when the Board of Education took the visit, and we visited the UPK classrooms and we visited kindergarten classrooms, and you heard students read to you, you know, those are things that are not necessarily covered on the test. And then I think back to the fall when we showed the lesson where Michelle Morgan was teaching the math lesson on how long it takes for each student to compute a math problem, and it was 6.5 minutes just because it's a computer-based assessment. Those are not measuring intelligence, that's measuring compliance and whether that child has the attention span to stay focused for 6 minutes. And I think that was what John was getting at earlier. You know, do they get partial credit for showing the right method? They may have the wrong calculation, but they showed the right method. None of that's factored in here. So I think that, again, we're not celebrating our shortcomings. We're aware of them. We're working on them. But we are kind of looking at, again, what's fiscally responsible and how are we providing a quality, well-rounded education. And I think we are doing that, and we will continue to address those gaps and those deficiencies. But we're also offering instrumental band at the elementary, at the middle school, and at the high. Our numbers in band and chorus are going up. Our performance in athletics, you know, for the past several years, we've had 2 teams at the modified level in several sports. You know, we're filling that social and emotional need for our students that way. Those aren't factored in here. And then, as Megan said, you know, the portrait of a graduate, you know, we had Regent Hal in the community multiple times this year. And I think about the fact that there's, in 2027, with everything being implemented, there will only be 3 assessments that they're looking at for the high school level. And then you'll look at specific local endorsements to kind of take that Regents for All mindset away. Students that want to take Regents will continue to go there. Students who want to measure their intelligence other ways, will have a different certificate or endorsement. So to me, the positive changes that are coming are kind of coinciding with what we've done as a district. And I take as much pride in that when Megan's solicited by all the things that we're doing well, that people want to come see it, and that we're not just scrapping something because we're not doing well with it. We really want to investigate and figure out why. And then when we do have very good results, we want to make sure it's happening over multiple years before we say, okay, we've got a very good handle on that. So I think we are spending money in appropriate fashion. I do feel like we've got some ideas, but I also feel like, again, you know, we're getting better at looking at specific data. And the one piece that I can't emphasize enough, and you've heard me say this, is the action plans. You know, when we work with teachers and we support them for specific growth in specific areas with their instruction, and it's being utilized more because now our administrators are recognizing the need for more of that approach, that's going to help.
One more piece, what really stands out to me is the board's initiative for our 3-year-olds to have program. And so when I look at the kindergarten reading proficiency, I really think that the support that you've given for the 3-year-old program, the 4-year-old program, we're going to continue to see those types of numbers and growth because they are getting the best education that they can being here at such a young age. So I think that's been a really important piece that we've put money in, you know, resources in early on to support them.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Number 12 on our agenda is public access. Tina, is anyone asked to speak? No?
No, there's no one.
Okay, thank you. At this time, the board is going to take a short break to go into executive session before we continue on. So I'd like a motion, please, to go into executive session. Travis and Leslie, any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We shall return soon. We are on now number 13, the consent agenda. A motion, please, to approve the consent agenda. Tina and Leslie. Any discussion? Consent agenda goes through page 10. Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda? Motion is carried. Number 14, page 10, number 14. Number 1, a motion please to approve the co-curricular appointments. One, not a plural, one. Motion? Do I have a? All right. Linda and Travis, okay. Discussion. All right, Tina, would you call the roll?
Cinda,
Yes?
Tina,
Yes.
John,
Abstain.
Linda,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Travis.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried.
Motion is carried. Now, number 2, a motion please to approve the coaching and athletic department appointments. Motion? Linda, John?
I know. I shouldn't.
Yep. Discussion? Tina, would you call the roll, please?
Cinda,
Yes?
Tina,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Leslie,
Abstain. It's family.
Travis.
Yes.
Thank you, motion is carried.
Motion is carried. Number 3, the coaching and athletic department appointments listed below. A motion, please? Leslie and John? Discussion? All in favor? Call the roll, please, Tina?
Cinda,
Yes.
Tina,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Travis.
I abstain.
Thank you, motion is carried.
Now, number 15. A motion, please, to approve the following policies. They are maximum temperature for school buildings and floor facilities, indoor facilities, and the use of internet-enabled devices during the school day. A motion, please, to approve. Travis and Linda? Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. All right, we come now to good news. Anybody have anything they want to say tonight?
It's not necessarily good news, but I'll probably get this wrong, but there's a past board member passed away. I think it was from South Butler, Mrs. Rising, and she was a board member many, many years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. She was quite, I think, well over 10 years, and she was very, very good on the board at the time.
We're sorry to hear that. At this time, we move to board member requests, comments, and discussion. One that I had listed for discussion is our board meeting, our Board of Education meeting time. You have before you a little sheet with 3 different possibilities. The first one is keeping it at 6 o'clock, but rearranging it a little bit. You'll notice that I moved the reports and correspondence from the beginning to more toward the end, so that people who came to either speak to the board or at least wanted to stay for the consent agenda, the business of the meeting, if there would be some spots where they could leave if they chose. That's one scenario. The others, pardon me, the other 2 are to move it to an earlier time This would be the first meeting of the month only, the business meeting. It would either be a 5:30 time or a 5 o'clock time. And again, at the 5:30 and the 5 o'clock, you'll see that I moved, we would open, we'd pledge, we'd approve the agenda, and then we would go directly into executive session, as we always do in the middle of the meeting. This way, people could still make the 6 o'clock or a 5:30, if it was a 5 o'clock meeting, time when we're doing business, and have access to us if they wanted to speak with us. I purposely, in this case, at the 5 o'clock one, I moved the reports and correspondence earlier, trying to get the public access a little later, to move that. Moving the meeting earlier would be, would actually, for us, be giving consideration to the staff, the presenters that do come to they're required or they have a reason to be here, with a student now on the soon to be on our board. We'd be getting out a little earlier. Concern I have with the 5 o'clock time is if it interferes with a student being in a sports, some sport where they're having practices. Could they make a 5 o'clock meeting? I don't know. On the other hand, 5 o'clock would mean we might have a chance to get to a concert or something that we want to see. So there's advantages to that. The 5:30 time was more of a compromise time. So this is a board decision. The board meetings belong to the board. I fully understand Mr. Pullen's opinion of wanting to get his staff home after a long day. And I also think for when it helps the public if they can get home before dark, when we're still in daylight saving time. So there's advantages and disadvantages. So that's my spiel, and I'd like your opinion and what you're thinking.
I like the idea of the earlier start myself. I think for all the reasons that you listed, would also benefit myself. For sports.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, 2 or 3 games coincided with the board meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And if we started them at 5, I could definitely probably be on the field by the time the game started.
Mm-hmm.
Cinda, my understanding is if we had a student, they couldn't come to, they couldn't come to executive session
That's
anyways,
correct.
right? So even if they were in sports and they got here for the
That's true.
5:30 or the 6,
I hadn't thought about that.
that wouldn't
Mhm.
change that
Yeah,
part.
that's true.
Because we'd
Mhm.
expect them to report later anyways,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
so considering that.
And that would probably work better for them too if they were in sports and had a game, because the games don't start till 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Right.
So they would still be able to attend and make their game.
Uh-huh.
And going a little earlier doesn't hurt the public's attendance like that. It's not like we've had a lot of people attending anyway, so.
No, it doesn't, but we have excuse me, I've got cookie in my mouth. We have committed to having the public speak to us with our public access. So we want to make sure that it's accessible to them. So somebody who's working an 8 to 5 job can't make a 5 o'clock meeting, but by pushing the public access back as far as possible, I would be helpful. I did think the public access should be before the consent agenda or any roll call resolutions, because the public might have something they want to say about what we're going to vote on, in which case, if we hear someone, we might decide that we either want to pull that to vote on it separately or to hold off. So that gives, because the public, if they come and we've already voted on it, it's kind of
Since our
a
second,
slap in the face.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Our second meeting is supposed to be a business meeting and more for us anyway, right?
It's supposed to be a workshop.
Right. Of which is public, but we don't entertain guests for whatever.
Not at a workshop.
At that part.
The
So-
workshops, we've been doing at 4
Earlier
o'clock,
anyways.
right? And then we do
Yes.
a meeting.
Right.
And is that what we figure, an hour and a half for a workshop?
So typically, the board workshops start about 4 o'clock, and they vary. Could be anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half. And then if we have business, the board usually goes right into the business meeting right after, at the conclusion.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset is kind of what we were looking at when we presented it to you.
So what if we were to keep our first meeting of the month at the 6 o'clock time and had the second meeting at the earlier time? Would that accommodate anything?
No.
That wouldn't help?
It
Okay.
wouldn't change anything.
It wouldn't help. Okay. I just thought maybe if we mixed it up that way, it would help. No. Okay, that's my big idea.
So most of us are in favor of the 5 o'clock? Is that what I'm hearing, or no?
I'm hearing Travis say 5 o'clock is good. John, Linda, Lindsay?
I don't
Leslie?
have any, either one is fine, but something, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like I remember at a certain point in time, there was public access early in the meeting and later in the meeting too, because sometimes people would come in a little bit later and want to speak.
We did that, yeah.
You can have two
I remember
public
we did that
access?
at one point. There were 2 opportunities so that perhaps if someone was at work and it was an earlier time in the meeting, they couldn't make it, but they would be able to. And sometimes, you know, and I do remember people came just to make very positive statements about things that were going on, but, you know, that's something that,
Have we known of situations where people didn't come because they felt like they missed public access?
No, I've never
Okay.
heard of
I was
anyone
just
complaining
curious.
about it, no.
Okay.
It's just that if we move the time earlier,
It might.
we want to make sure that we can accommodate people, that we certainly don't want to ever give the impression that we're moving the time earlier to avoid hearing the public, because we want to hear the public.
Correct.
And I believe, Linda, when there used to be 2, the board said you could not speak about the agenda at the first one, only at the last one. And I know one time I came to speak about something that was going to be passed because it was incorrect, and they would not let me speak. And I had to wait till the end, and so then I had to say, well, what you voted on was incorrect, but you wouldn't let me tell you ahead of time. I was annoyed, of course.
You?
I can't imagine that. Interesting.
But I think, you know, we changed that. We haven't held to that. I feel very strongly that if we're voting on something and there's people who have who want to say their piece about something that we're voting on, we ought to hear it. So,
I have mixed feelings about it. I understand Travis's concern. I understand the administrative, the teachers. I also hear at times that our concerts are especially our concerts, they're now at 6 o'clock or something. And it's way too early if you're driving in, your father or mother, you're driving in from Rochester and you want to attend you got to leave work early and come. I mean, who are we designing the schools for? Is it for, I don't know. That's where I'm coming from. The same with the board meetings, although not so strongly with that, because I really have not had a chance to really have in-depth thinking about this. But that's just my off-the-cuff comment about it.
all right.
I have mixed feelings about it. I could live with it either way and try it.
Let's do this. We have, our next board meeting is on the 20. Oh, it's in August. I thought, don't we have a workshop
We
coming
have a
up?
workshop, yes.
Yeah. And we'll probably have a business meeting, short one, following
Possibly.
it.
Sometimes there's staff.
Let's think about, give you some time to think about this, and we will take a vote at the next meeting on what we're going to do. And that will be in time for the first meeting of August. For that,
Yeah,
You okay?
we're just asking, like I said, it is your meeting. It's just something for the board to consider. I know when I started, we used to have board meetings on Tuesday nights, and we asked you to consider Thursday, for stamina purposes, and that's the same mindset with the change in time. There's a component of stamina and decision-making fatigue, right? So when you're sitting here and you're here for a 12-hour, 13 or 14-hour day, there's a component where we're worried about the effectiveness of our decision making the following day, right? So that's just something to think about. And again, it happens. That's why they make coffee and now energy drinks. But we'll get through it. But I think it's something to consider. And I think if you could look at our summer hours, for staff, the board's been very generous in allowing us to adjust our working hours, and people leave at 3 o'clock. There's a 3-hour hiatus between the summer hours and the board meeting started, and that's why I've said to the administrators they're dismissed, because there's really no benefit for them sticking around for 3 hours and waiting to come back. And I think that you're going to see in the fall as well, there will be an efficiency that's realized for a variety of reasons. The athletic contests, the concerts, the effectiveness of their presentation, and for our administrators to, and our staff to be home and eating dinner with their families on a night where there isn't an extracurricular activity.
When would workshops be?
Still be at
the
4.
second at 4.
Yep.
Even though we usually have an hour and a half of the workshop, that would be 3:30, wouldn't it?
Right, but the workshop,
no.
it would be 4 o'clock. And the workshop and the business meeting that typically accompanies the second meeting is just really limited to consent agenda. There's no presentations, there's no correspondence or reports. It's really just for personnel purposes, so that one tends to be a shorter meeting. I think at the end of the year, when we were rushed for time with presentations that we still wanted to get in for the board, we did some presentations at the second one. But as I said, once we get an idea of what your topics are that you want workshops on, then we'll go ahead and we'll create the workshop calendar and provide that to you. And then we'll provide it to our administrators as well, so they understand what's expected. So last year you wanted to see more opportunities in the buildings, and you wanted to see more relevant information, and I think we found that to be very successful last year when we did that.
I would prefer that if
if we have a workshop that we fluctuate between 4 and 4:30, and then if we're going to have a short board meeting, that would be a 6 o'clock. So that, again, if the public wants to come, they know a time. Not that they're wondering, gee, is it going to be at 5:30 tonight, or is it at 6? You know, that. But quite often, we've had our 4 o'clock workshops, and we've used the full hour and a half. So,
Sure have.
yeah. And I think the 4 o'clock time is great for people who sometimes, we're having a workshop and we're going to be dealing with, say, a capital project or an engineer firm or so. It's part of their workday, rather than at night, or say an attorney. Again, it's part of their workday rather than a nighttime thing. And quite often, those people have to travel distances, and getting home earlier, I think, is a thoughtful gesture on our part. But you think about it, and at the meeting on the 4th, we will make a decision. It kind of sounds to me like we're probably toying between the 5 and the 5:30 maybe. From what I'm seeing heads nod, but
I don't see why we just don't try one. The summer would be the ideal time to do it.
I'm okay.
I don't,
I thought you were the holdout, John.
well, I am, but I don't like the whole idea.
Have another cookie.
Give that man a cookie. He's more compliant when he eats cookies.
And at 5 o'clock, the cookies are
Well, are you
There
ready?
you go, Travis, I like it.
Are you ready to vote on trying the 5 o'clock time? Travis is.
I don't have a
What-
problem with voting now.
I have one question, wait a minute. We'll have one meeting in August?
We only have one
Well.
in July, you have 2 in August.
So it'd be August 7th and the 21st?
Yeah.
I think so.
The 21st is the luncheon.
Right, so do we have a meeting that night
We
as
don't-
well?
As of right now, we do
Okay,
not.
so we would only have one meeting in August, so we could try the 5 o'clock, is what I was getting
There's 2
at.
meetings in August, let me look at the calendar. There's 2 meetings in August.
Yeah, I
We
think
usually
so.
end up with 2 because
more?
there has to be some things that have to be adopted before school starts. We always
And-
have some
And
business.
positions,
Day that you'd want us to
hiring
do.
usually
Yeah,
comes
we'll
into
get it
play.
all together.
I've got to do it to submit my days off.
I know, we're gonna get it out.
The meetings in August are the 14th and the 28th.
14th and the
Yeah, because they're
28th?
the second Thursdays of the month. Second, fourth Thursday.
Stupid me, I had them written down.
Okay.
All right.
We
Well,
only have one scheduled for July, that's all we've typically ever had. We have workshops scheduled
But we-
on the 17th.
Right.
but we have one scheduled.
24th of July.
No, the 17th.
I thought
is
that
the
was
data person.
administrative.
Oh, the data is the 17th. That's
Mhm.
Nicole, then the 24th is Capital.
All right.
We'll put all the dates together for you.
Oh, the 24th is for the board then too?
Please do.
What's that?
Okay.
24th is a board meeting.
Yeah, that, we don't have a board meeting for the 24th right now. It's just a workshop.
Workshop, right.
So data for Nicole and then SEI on the 24th. We'll put all that together. We'll put all that together for you. So right now, we're working with Nicole Alioto on the 17th for a board data workshop. And then on the 24th of July, it will be the capital project update from SEI. That's also a workshop. There's no meeting scheduled right now. However, as it's been pointed out, if there's a need for business to take place in July, the logical one would be the 24th, right after the workshop. But right now, because the 17th is next week, that really is not what we're looking for. We're just doing the straight data workshop.
That one's at noon?
Megan, what time did you have it scheduled for with Nicole?
17th is, not on my calendar, because I'm on vacation. Oh, I think it's 12:30 to 3:30.
I'm not either. Opening day would be the day after Labor Day, though, right?
Mhm.
Okay. It just, if I want to come, I've got to tell Lauren now.
Oh, with the staff, it's the 27th.
Is that the day you like us here?
We'll give that to you in an email.
You're not listening to me.
I heard you, and I heard Mrs. Collier, that the board meetings are for board.
Oh, the 27th of August? I'm okay then. I'm not scheduled that day, so don't worry about me. I got a demanding daughter.
It's 12 to 3 is when I have Nicole.
We'll send this all tomorrow.
Could I ask you to
Yeah,
propose this?
yeah.
The times?
Or,
So the proposal was I'd asked Mrs. Collier to consider moving the times up because I watched our administrators toward the end of the year. And I also know that with the board, there were a few meetings during the winter where we had lengthy meetings because of several presentations. And I feel like, again, it's my obligation to point out some things when we're leaving after 9:30, quarter to 10 at night, that becomes something that for everyone's well-being, that we're kind of looking at that aspect as well. Because I want to say, at least on one occasion, we left close to 10 o'clock at night. And there were several that were after 8:30, quarter to 9, getting into that 9 o'clock time frame. And I think that that's asking a lot of you, especially considering that it's a volunteer role. And in many cases, the 6 o'clock start, was really just an indicator of what was happening formally.
In the good old days, we used to meet at 7.
Yep.
And we always went past 9, which was awful. People
Yep.
didn't have coffee.
And there's a variety of districts that offer it as early as 7 a.m. in the morning and do it at the beginning of the day. There are some that do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I don't, to the point that was made, we're not trying to exclude the public. We're actually just trying to factor in ways to be more efficient. And I personally, I feel like when we were able to have the meeting set up through Zoom or Google Meets or Teams, people were more engaged during the pandemic because there was an online component and there was the interactive piece. But right now, we haven't seen that, and I think if we could propose an earlier time frame and assess it, right? Just like we did with the days of the week. We assess it, figure out whether there's a method that works or not.
I will say that when he mentioned it, I was quite opposed to it, only because of the public access. But then when I sat and started working with the agenda and moving things around, I could see how we could do both. And I'm okay with an earlier time now. But if you want to vote on it tonight, you can, but it would take somebody making a motion and somebody seconding it to put it on the floor.
I'd make a motion, but I don't have 5 or 5:30, it doesn't matter to me, but for someone else, if it does. Make the motion.
go for it.
I make the motion that we start our meetings at 5 o'clock.
The first meeting of a month.
The
yeah,
first meeting
yeah.
of the month at 5 o'clock. And I feel like if we could always push it back if we needed to, as long as we gave enough time.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Tina, second. Is there more discussion? Then all in favor of moving our first board meeting of the month to a 5 o'clock start time?
Yep.
And those who don't approve? I've never had to say that before. Or I'm not going to let you abstain
Why not?
because you have no reason.
I'm opposed.
Okay. All right. Well, it passes at any rate. Okay, Mr. Pullen, 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
So on the 14th, our first meeting in August will be on 5 o'clock. Our July one
Yes.
is a workshop, so it doesn't matter.
The August meeting will be at 5 o'clock, the first one, yes. All right. Is there anything else anyone wants to bring up? Oh, I do. Sorry about that. Another thing, we talked about adding the a board communication committee to the standing committees, rather than the ad hoc that we had last year. So what I would like is a motion to add that board communications committee to the standing committees.
So this would be like the other committees where we're appointed to one, and it's gonna be a group of 2 or 3? It's
Three.
not gonna be
It'd be
Right.
3.
You know how we met as an ad hoc?
Yeah.
It'll now be a formal committee.
Do you need a vote on that, or can you just do it?
I want to vote, then you can't come back to me and say you shouldn't have done that. No, if you want a standing committee, the board needs to approve it, and I think the board needs to stand up and say, yes, we want it.
I think we all should be on the committee. I think it should be a committee that all board members are a part of, and when that email goes out, is there anything that you would like to add to the?
Oh, good point.
I suggest that it's open to all board members, and it could be put out through email. And if anybody has a suggestion, they could put it forward.
I would agree with that, Travis, other than somebody's got to be ahead of it to do it and to get it done. And we cannot all meet as a committee because we'd have a quorum, so it can only be, but the committee, that could be part of the requirements of the committee is to.
Open it up to the
is
rest of the board?
Yeah, to communicate
Okay.
with the board.
That makes sense.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I can work with them.
We could, by a board email,
Right.
we could be sending,
Yes,
someone
that's
on the
true.
committee could just send an email out saying we've met, if there's anything else that you think should be included. I mean, that would be an easy way to take care of it.
What's the advantage of having a standing committee versus ad hoc?
Well, ad hoc is supposed to be a short-term ad hoc committee.
Okay.
For a specific reason, I think,
You know, it doesn't,
usually.
it's just the only reason you have an ad hoc is when you've got a specific purpose that you want them to do, and then it's over with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we want this committee because we also have Amanda who's in more of a
Yes.
full-time role, and we
right.
can
And you would
have more
work with Amanda
communications.
with that, yes.
Yes. She's very good to work.
So I need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we create a standing committee versus
Okay.
an ad hoc committee for communications.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Tina? Discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. And the last thing that I have is, I'm going to have to be making new committees and assigning new liaisons. So let me know if there's something you would like to be on, and it doesn't have to be the same committee that you've been on. It's wide open. And let me know as well if there are things you don't want to be on. So
Noted. Okay.
John picked up his pencil on that one. So,
Pretty feisty tonight.
She's going after John today.
Oh, this president role.
well, I just noticed, I happened to mention it. All right.
Is she abusing power? Are we worried about this?
Wait a minute.
So let me know, just let me know, would you? I usually like to keep one experienced person on a committee, for sure. But it's also nice to try different committees and see how different aspects of the board work with responsibility. So let me know.
I'd like to stay on the safety committee, but if somebody else would like to be on the safety committee, I'd step away.
All right.
I don't seem to have jumped to be on policy.
No, Leslie and I said we both would continue.
I stay. I enjoyed the policy committee and I'm willing to continue.
And she'd like to be head. She'd like to chair the policy
Team
committee.
volunteer.
Yes, I did.
I have been voluntold.
And agreed.
Well, yes, okay, but let me know. Also, if you'd like to be liaison in a particular building this year, I do like to move the liaisons around so that all board members do learn what all the buildings are about. So, okay, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything? Then a motion to adjourn? John? And Travis? And Linda? Any discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We are adjourned.
Thank you.